All right. I want to continue to keep my promise to you guys, especially during this time of year where everybody's busy traveling, to do some quick hitter episodes, things that can give you immediate value straight to the point. If you're new to the podcast, typically in the past, we've done quite a few interviews. Then we got feedback from a lot of you that you liked more of the single or solo episodes. And I appreciate that feedback. And it can be tricky, right? You have some guests usually that, despite whether they're big names or whether they're just breaking into their career or they're new, some of them are really good at giving you some tactical takeaways. Some of them are really good at storytelling, but you never really know what you're going to get, right? So we sprinkle in solo episodes for the sole purpose that sometimes I know you guys just want something straight to the point that aligns with the title and the core problem that you're trying to solve. So that's the point of these. All right, today's episode, and this comes from a suggestion from someone in our Mighty Networks community. How do you, and they use the word argue, but I know what they mean. Basically, how do you argue with somebody that keeps trying to argue in a circle? Or how do you stop circular arguments in their tracks? How do you stop getting pulled into the games of somebody that wants to make a discussion, an argument, or anything like that, even if it's just a basic conflict resolution situation where they go around and they try to spin it, right? So we've all been in conversations where you swear you're solving something or addressing an issue, but 30 minutes later, you are back at that same damn point, or you're off on some other tangent because this individual won't stay on point. And this happens in marriages, business meetings, and locker rooms, anywhere where people tend to try to confuse emotion with real progress. Or sometimes it just happens when certain people feel overwhelmed by the nature of an argument and they don't really know where to go. So they'll start projecting or deflecting. And this was a criticism I had gotten from a friend. He said, hey, one time I kind of just said, why are we spinning around and around? Let's stay on point. And he said, here's the thing, dude, you're too good at arguing sometimes. And it was like a backhanded compliment because I don't try to be good at arguing. Like I'm not going to discuss something unless I've come with the facts or what I think we're trying to address, a solution. And he said, my mind doesn't process it as quickly. So I'm not trying to get us off track. It just happens sometimes. So remember, not everybody means malice. It's what we talk about all the time, Hanlon's razor. Sometimes people will start spinning arguments because they're emotionally overwhelmed or they don't know what to say. And so that's up to you to kind of judge. Does it seem like this person is maybe having trouble staying on track? Is it an unintentional power dynamic where you might be steamrolling or bulldozing or just way more prepared? Or is this somebody trying to manipulate you in a negative way, right? And we can talk about that in a future issue if you want. But today I'm going to give you 3 ways to try to keep the main point, so you don't chase your tail all the time or the real issue. So one of the things you can do, pardon me, I'm getting over a cold and a cough, is identify what the issue is not. What I mean by this is circular arguments survive because people start fighting about other things. They don't get right to the source. All right. So if you're having an argument about the dishes or a deadline, it somehow can get turned into, well, this is really an argument about respect, control, or somebody feeling unheard. So let's say I'm in a disagreement with somebody, and this happened recently. I was talking to a contractor doing some work at our house. They didn't do a great job. So kind of, I just asserted that. And then they tried to make it about, well, there was this issue with the house and this issue with the house. They wouldn't take any accountability. And so I said, listen, I understand that you found some other issues, but right now we're talking about the stucco repair, or right now we're talking about how you went about cleaning our solar panels, whatever that was. In this case, it was stucco repair after the storm. Those other issues have nothing to do with this. We'll get to those in a minute. I'd appreciate it if we can just talk about what I found to be an issue with the stucco repair. And they went on another tangent, and I just brought it back. I go, and I'm happy to address that as well. But this is about the stucco repair. I want to talk about the core issue. Let's please not talk around it, or let me know when you're ready to talk about that issue, right? And the main thing you have to do is remind them, hey, this is a boundary and this is what we're focusing on. Now, there's some times where if it's going to go around and around, I'll appease them. I'll say, okay, I'll address that right now, but then we're going to still get back to the stucco repair because that's the core issue. And it's also okay for you, if you're just kind of confused, to say, I'm sorry, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. It seems like you came to me initially about an issue with the dishes or about an issue with our child or about an issue related to where we're going to go on vacation. But now it seems like it's getting to be something else. Which one do you want me to address first? And give them that power. Don't play their game. Just come back, reorient it, and make sure that you're clear on which they want you to address first. Because this is like more of a meta communication failure, right? That's the sciencey term for it, where people stop talking about the issue and instead they talk around it. Hey, is this about where we're going on vacation? Is this about you don't feel like you're getting enough sleep and so you want me to do bedtime tonight? Is this about the stucco repair? Right? Really write that central issue down in your own mind, or if you need to on a notepad, and that have some kind of physical anchoring, because that can help as well, right? The other piece is you want to make sure that you're controlling, and it's worth remembering to go on a bit of a tangent. When a conversation loops, that's usually just somebody fighting for control, right? That's one core soundbite you want out of this. If you find yourself in an argument with somebody who's trying to spin it into another dimension, or they're trying to loop it into something else, what the real root cause is that person wants control, or they feel like they're out of control, right? So, and that could be control of the narrative. Maybe it's something that hits their self-image in a way that they don't want, their emotions, or the moral high ground, which is really expensive real estate. Most arguments, it's not worth getting into the moral high ground. That's not going to do anything productive. And you can't really win a tug of war with somebody that wants control. What you have to do is you have to find some way so that they feel like they're getting the control that they're so desperate to have, but it's still resolution focused. So give ground to gain ground sometime, right? So if you need to concede on a point, do that, but keep the main issue the main issue. You could also just say, hey, I hear what you're saying on this, and that's valid, but that doesn't seem to be what we were supposed to be talking about. I thought we were talking about X. Then you're giving structure to the conversation. If they say, no, that's not what we're talking about. All right, then say, okay, then let's agree to shift X to the table and then make it about Y. But I'm not going to continue to go back and forth. I want to stay resolution focused. That's a huge thing, right? Or you can time box it. You can say, all right, I agree to talk about Y for 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. If we're not making any headway, let's revisit that, or let's revisit the other stuff. But the core point of that one is still you want to force focus. You don't want more emotional flooding. So either get them to stay on subject, concede a little bit so they feel the control they're so desperate for, hash out the other issue, or put a boundary around it and say, I'm happy to talk about blank for 5 to 10 minutes. And folks, I'm not giving you advice that I don't use. I have to do this whether I'm doing business negotiations. I have to do this in a co-parenting relationship, right? Given the divorce and those dynamics. I have clients that I guide through these things, but these are very common things. They're very common. So whether you're dealing with contractors, your spouse, an ex, your child, some aspect of these will work. These are real world things. But the other one I want to give you is just, you also have the right just to not take the bait. A lot of people will derail arguments by bringing up past offenses. And this is where they start deflecting, right? Well, hey, I'd like to talk about this. Oh yeah, like the time where you did this in 1986. There's a lot of unspoken resentment, and that's purposefully a ridiculous example, but you know what I mean. Oh yeah, like the time you did this last Tuesday. They start to deflect. One of the best things you can say then is, well, I didn't really know that was a core issue. And yeah, we can unpack that later, but right now, can we just stay on this subject? Don't get pulled into that unspoken resentment. And when people do deflect and they do that, that's a big issue of emotional maturity and their lack of it. Your demonstration of emotional maturity is refusing to get drug into that kind of swamp, right? You're not going to do that. And it's tricky because projection can act like a kind of dye test. If you've ever had like a contrast MRI, it starts to flood the bloodstream and shows all these other issues that come up. You'll start to notice this person deflects, or they project, or they start accusing. They don't actually, that's when you know, oh, this isn't really about the issue you said it was about. This is about you. There's something in the past that you still feel a certain way about. And now that's saturating and amplifying the impact of this issue. I see. Right. And so it's just tricky. It's because whenever you're in a circular loop with somebody, it's an emotional maturity problem. It is a problem with them just being able to focus on the core issue. It's a focus of control. And even if you look at negotiation research, such as Harvard Fishers and Urey, they're getting to yes, where you reframe positions as interests, right? You can say, hey, um, let's talk about what you actually need. If this isn't about this issue, what do you need from me? Because I don't want to continue to go back and forth. Or one of my favorite things is, it doesn't seem like we're getting somewhere here. How do you want to feel at the end of this? Because I want to feel like we found a resolution. I want to feel like we found common ground. But if it's an issue where the other person just wants to feel like they're right, or sometimes they just want to vent, now you realize this isn't really about them solving a problem so much as sometimes it's about them punishing you. But if after all this, it's still circling, and I hope what you heard me say is like, a lot of times this is about control. It's a matter of emotional maturity. It's a matter of somebody maybe not as prepared as they thought they were to have that discussion. Summarize and close it. Just say, hey, here's what we agreed on. Here's what still seems to be open. And here's when I'd like to revisit that. Here's what we agreed on. Here's what's still open or unresolved. Here's when I'd like to revisit that. How about you? Or just call the timeout. And we've talked about this before. We're going in circles. I'd like to pause before we make this worse. Here's my core point. And research backs this up. When you have physiological flooding, meaning somebody's gotten really amped up, and they don't have to be visibly amped up, in terms of, a lot of times people think the loudest person or the person who's blushing or seems the most flustered, that they're the most amped. That's not always the case. There's a lot of people that can be just straight up stone faced and they're stonewalling. But either way, when there's physiological flooding, their heart rate gets over 100 beats per minute. That's going to kill rational thought. And so you knowing when to walk away, that's not you being weak. That's just you helping kind of regulate where you're willing to let this go. Because it's hard to negotiate with people that are really ramped up. It is. And that's good note for you too. But the more you can do those things and just improve the intentionality and clarity of your message, right? If you're stuck with somebody who, no matter what, they refuse logic, they refuse accountability, my Lord, have I dealt with this. And people that just will take no accountability, right? Elevate the stakes. Just say, hey, you have to understand, if we can't solve this, then we're going to have to involve blank. And this is common in divorces. Like, if we can't solve this right now, then it's just going to go to the lawyers, and that's going to waste more money. Or if we can't solve this, we're going to have to involve Jim, and then their firm is going to get a cut of this, whatever that is, right? And you don't want to deal with that. And so if you can remind them of the stakes, even for people that refuse logic, that can be really, really potent. That can be really potent. So I just want to bring this home with a practical reminder. If you're in a disagreement, argument, whatever term you want to use, you don't win by out-arguing them. You win, quote unquote, by just keeping things clear, whether that's the stakes, that's the intent, having that strong anchor. Keep the main thing the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. Don't get drawn into their game. Don't start using overly therapized language. It's good to use phrases like, it seems like, I feel like, it seems as if, whatever. But overuse of those, which is a lot of what's going on in social media right now. I see the advice that some of these quote unquote communication gurus are giving people. And it's kind of like they've opened up every Harvard Business Review or kind of woke speak book of the year, and they're trying to use it. That shit will just make people more angry. Like, be real. Be real. And just remember, if you find yourself having the same argument more than once, that's not an argument anymore. It's a ritual. There's some other thing there that person is not being honest about, and they're not arguing about the real issue anymore. There's symptoms of something else. So you've got to make sure that you stay on the real issue, control the frame, meaning like always, what's the thing that we're trying to accomplish? Stay calm, stay structured, as on point as you can, and then just end with clarity. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. This is a story about blank. keep the story, right? Things are going to develop in there. And then there's an end. What happens? Hey, I'm glad we were able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I hope we can make more progress on blank in the future. I know it's okay to just say, I know I got heated for a little bit. If you got heated, I didn't mean that. I'm just passionate about this. It's not indicative of my respect for you. It's okay. It's okay to like lose, like you're cool on some of these things too. You just got to learn from it. All right. I hope this helps. Please share it with a friend as always, or give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We can't really make progress without you guys doing that kind of stuff. We depend on your reviews. We depend on your referrals. If you or your organization wants help with these things, we do this a lot. We go around the world talking about and helping organizations across finance, engineering, the medical space, strength and conditioning, physical therapy, talk about how to have more productive conversations. None of it is woo woo. None of it is a college lecture. We get our hands dirty. We work with you. We meet you where you're at. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.